decentralized apps that is going to launch and is really trying to go big. And I think we have an opportunity to go really big. One of those reasons is that we already have an existing community. We have a product called FireChat, which is a decentralized messaging app. We built that in 2014. It has 5 million registered users. Over the summer, once we launch our token, we're going to start to airdrop tokens to that community. And we're effectively giving away internet access to people all over the world through FireChat. And they can use that to connect to Open Garden hotspots and get free internet access. So that's a massive scale up that we'll be able to do. On day one, we'll have hundreds of thousands of wallets. There are virtually no consumer blockchain projects that start that way. Most start with a Telegram channel with maybe 40,000 very thirsty speculators who are, anxious to take the token and sell it. We've got 2 orders of magnitude bigger audience than that. So some of the learnings that we gained, I want to first start talking about Stellar. So we didn't want to build our own blockchain. We thought that would be redundant and reductive. We looked at Ethereum, we looked at some other base protocols as well, and we chose Stellar. We chose Stellar because it's faster and cheaper. We're enabling peer-to-peer internet connectivity, and the payments for that are done per megabyte right now. And so we need to run a lot of transactions. Back in December, the cost of an Ethereum transaction was about 70 cents and could take 15 minutes. With Stellar, we can process transactions in 2 to 3 seconds, and the cost per gigabyte of validating transactions is going to be about 5% of 1 penny. It's virtually free to consumers. I don't know how Stellar is going to make money, but this is a great platform to build high throughput, high transaction processing services like Open Garden. So we chose Stellar. And this, I think, was a fantastic choice. Stellar is an amazing team, they're making great progress, and there are some really, really fantastic projects, in addition to Open Garden, that are launching on Stellar. But some of the learnings we got from it are this. First of all, in our fundraising process, nobody had heard of Stellar. They don't have a huge profile yet globally. And we're talking to investors all over the world. And so there was an education kind of learning curve for investors as we did this. We raised over $17 million in our private pre-sale, so it wasn't that huge a hump. But there's a learning curve there, and you need to be aware of that. The second is that Stellar doesn't have a smart contract. We're giving away 35% of the tokens in our community to the community, to participants, as an incentive, as a growth strategy. And on Ethereum, that's relatively easy to do with a smart contract. Stellar doesn't have one. It doesn't have one principally because Stellar is, you can think of it as sort of like a decentralized calculator. It's really fast and really cheap to use. Where Ethereum is like a decentralized computer, very general purpose. That's much more expensive to build, though, than a big calculator. So in order for us to programmatically distribute tokens, we've had to build that component ourselves. And we're going to build it, open source it, and share that back to the Stellar community, because there's other blockchain projects that are going to be faced with similar challenges. So we want to contribute to the community. But this is something that we have to build ourselves. And initially, that's a centralized kind of platform. I think what you're going to find as you look at consumer decentralized apps that the starting point is actually a little more centralized than something like Bitcoin. But that's normal, and the process is really going to be one of moving toward decentralization. And this is an example of that. We're building this thing that will programmatically distribute tokens, we're managing it, it'll be open source, but we're managing it initially. And in time that will be fully decentralized too. A third learning about Stellar is that it doesn't have a lot of liquidity on exchanges. Lumens are traded on many major exchanges, but Stellar assets are not yet. There are a relatively small number of exchanges on which your token will seek liquidity. And this is something many investors ask us about. For those who are familiar with the regulatory environment here, we have really not much to do with exchange listings as a company. But in time, I expect our token to be distributed all over the place by our investors. There are a small number of exchanges today that trade Stellar assets, much smaller than Ethereum. But it's enough that I think our investors will see liquidity and they'll be happy with that as pre-sale investors. One of the great things about Stellar is it has its own decentralized exchange built into the platform. You don't have to list and apply and try to get included as an asset there. Every token that is an asset on Stellar is automatically on their decentralized exchange, which is hugely powerful. It means that consumers can buy tokens principally from other participants in the ecosystem without having to leave the app, without leaving the network and going over to some random exchange that has nothing to do with our ecosystem. So that's a big benefit to Stellar as well. I would share as well some learnings about building a consumer decentralized app. One of the biggest challenges is how are people going to get our token? Today, most of the tools that are out there for people to buy any cryptocurrency are investment grade tools. And those don't lend themselves well to building consumer products. For example, with Coinbase, probably a few of you have a Coinbase account. When you create a Coinbase account, you've got to upload a driver's license and do this KYC and wait 2 weeks for them to approve it if they're not backlogged. This is not how consumer products work. Our product needs to be so simple that somebody can press a button to buy OG and use it right away for internet access. They don't want to wait 2 weeks to get internet access. It's not possible. So we need to build some infrastructure around that. We as an ecosystem need to build that infrastructure. It doesn't really exist yet. There's not a simple way to buy any cryptocurrency unless you've gone through these sort of arduous KYC processes. So we're actually building that ourselves. And we're going to, again, contribute that to the community. We're doing it through something that's like a peer-to-peer OTC. So if you're familiar with OTC, you send money, maybe you wire transfer money to somebody, a fiat currency, and then they send you Bitcoin to your Bitcoin wallet. Well, our process will work very similarly. As a consumer, you can press a buy button, and then other people who are in the Open Garden ecosystem can say, I'll take that buy order. I'll give you 5 OG for that $5. And you PayPal them the money, and then they send you the OG. We're going to automate that. It's completely legitimate. And we'll solve that problem of, wow, how do I get Open Garden tokens without having to go get an exchange account, without having to know anything about cryptocurrency. The goal for any consumer product on a blockchain should be that your users, your audience, your customers shouldn't have to know anything about cryptocurrency. Otherwise, it's just too steep a learning curve to get real adoption. And we want real adoption. We want millions of people to use this thing. So those are some of the learnings that we've gained from what we're working on. And at talks like this, I want to share more and more about what we've gained along the way. I would close by adding that we are also hiring. We're based in Oakland. We're hiring engineers. We're hiring marketing people. We've raised a fair amount of capital, so we have the resources to go the distance. So if you're interested, I'm around. I'd love to talk to you. We also have some allocation left in our pre-sale, though our token is launching at the end of June, so there's a limited amount of time left to participate. And that's really the only vehicle. Once we go live, we're not selling anymore to the public, and there's no ICO. I don't think any American projects want to do ICOs anymore. So if you're interested, I'd love to talk to you about that as well. But what I would leave with you is that we're trying to build a protocol for the next 20 years. We are really trying to fundamentally change how all of us connect to the internet by making it faster, cheaper, and more private. This is the Internet of Us. Thank you very much.
All the intro, ladies and gentlemen. Paul, would you be open to taking some Q&A?
I would love to.
All right. Got some opportunity here to talk to a man who can tell you how to make money. If you have a question, please come on over here. So we want to make sure that we hear you on the microphone and everyone wins that way. Here we go. And your name is?
My name is Prati. I'd like to ask how are ISPs actually reacting to this, and what is the incentive for ISPs to actually support something like this?
That's a great question, and it comes up a lot. I should preface everything I said by saying that we raised capital last year with Verizon. And the reason they invested in us is because they have business problems that our protocol can solve. Every mobile operator in the world is facing the same challenge. The cost of service is going up because utilization on their cell phone network is going up. A few years ago, it was standard F video, and then HD video, and now 4K video. Now people are watching on their phones. Internet traffic over mobile is 80% video, and so it's just going like this. But the average revenue per user is going like this. And so as a consequence, operators are looking for ways to get utilization off their network, to reduce the cost of service. And our protocol is a great tool for that. They don't have to go build infrastructure. They can just implement our protocol, and when their subscribers are connected to Wi-Fi, they can be offload points for the cell phone network. Every operator in the world is interested in something like that. It bears pointing out that maybe Comcast isn't. But in the long run, what we see is an ecosystem play here. We want folks like us to be using this, hardware makers, network operators themselves to be using this. We're tokenizing bandwidth. And there are big benefits to operators being able to interoperate with each other without having to do deals, without having to do any structure. The protocol manages all of that. And whether it's us or somebody else, this is coming. The way I describe the ISP blowback is with a quote that is famously misattributed to Mahatma Gandhi. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And we're at varying points when I talk to operators. Some of them are ignoring us and some are just laughing at us. But there are others like Verizon who are taking what we're doing really seriously.
Okay, thank you. So it's a long way to ask a question from the back end to here. So I think it's very great idea of your idea. So but when do you see it will come to, say, real adoption of customer, and what kind of the barrier that you think will face during the adoption process?
That's a great question. There's a question of what does mass adoption mean? And there's charts about like how long did it take for the first 50 million cars to be invented, or to be purchased by consumers. It took like 35 years or something. How long did it take for electricity to be used by the first 50 million people? So if that's what we mean by mass adoption, I don't know. not more than 2 years. The initial use of our protocol is as software on your phone. Your phone's are the infrastructure. And if we can get the right message out, if we can get the incentives aligned with our token to participation, getting 50 million people using a protocol like this by downloading an app, that is, I could see us doing it in less than 2 years. I could see that coming as an outcome. It's up to us to execute now. We have everything lined up. We have the right team, we have the right technology, we've raised the capital. The pressure's on me now to deliver.
We have 3 minutes left. Any further questions, comments, ideas?
Who wants some OG? That's the name of our token.
Hi, come on, you have a question? Oh, no. Can you come over so we can all hear you?
I'm sorry. The question was, can I describe more about the
Please
how it
repeat
works?
the question.
Sure. So the question was, can I explain a little bit more about our hotspot? So I'll share a bit about how the technology works. There are 3 pieces to the connectivity protocol. Discovery, connectivity, and then actual data transfer. With our phone-to-phone platform, we need a relatively low-cost way to discover nearby hotspots. And one of the things we're trying to solve for is how crappy public Wi-Fi is today. You have to go into your phone, your laptop, see a huge list of SSIDs, and hope that one of them is actually good when you connect to it. And after you connect, it usually kind of sucks. What we're doing is helping phones discover each other. We use a protocol called Bonjour for that. It was invented by Apple, and it's widely used, typically used for actually discovering printers. We use that to discover nearby Open Garden hotspots. In the background, your phone can be in your pocket, and it'll discover hotspots. In time, with machine learning, we'll be able to know that that hotspot has got really, really high latency, or that hotspot has really low throughput, so don't bother. Don't even waste your time connecting to it. Connect to the one that's right next to it because that one's better. So discovery is the first part, and we use Bonjour for that. We also use Bluetooth beacons to help in some respects too. Once the phones have discovered each other and decide, I want to connect, this provider is charging this much, and I, as a consumer, I'm willing to pay that much. This is all done under the covers. Then the phones can connect, and we use Wi-Fi Direct for phone-to-phone connectivity for the connection. That's a protocol that was also typically invented so that phones can be connected to your Samsung TV. We use that for a couple of reasons. One, it enables us to set up the Open Garden hotspot as an infrastructure Wi-Fi, and for the consumer to connect using the Wi-Fi radio on their phone using Wi-Fi Direct. So you have kind of two sides. You've got on one side infrastructure Wi-Fi where the provider's phone's connected to, say, their home internet, and on the other side broadcasting out using Wi-Fi Direct, which is a novel way of actually connecting the phones together. Phone to phone, the throughput is really high, 200 to 300 megabits per second. It's very fast. So there's no like, oh, this is kind of a degraded experience. It's actually faster in many cases. Many people don't know that. Once the phones are connected, we establish a VPN between the devices to tunnel the traffic so that we have this smooth transfer of data through the provider's phone and out to the internet. And as I mentioned, we're adding a decentralized VPN protocol to that, so it's completely opaque. So discover, connect, and then transfer.
And if they want to get in touch with you, your time is up now, but what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
We have a Telegram channel, Open Garden, opengarden.com. You can learn more there. And I'll be around here too.
Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Hainsworth. Thank you,
everybody.
sir.
Appreciate it.